Hello, Donna Sarah. And welcome to your very own Let's Play. Now, you like a good story. I think this is one that you will appreciate the shit out of. And since you are not a gamer, I'm just going to take this part and show it to you start to finish. It's a shame, though, because there is an added level of intensity if you are playing it yourself. For one, because there is a level of attachment, emotional attachment and immersion that is only found in the interactive medium of a game like this, where if success or failure hinges on your own actions, has a completely different impact on you than just by sitting down and watching it happen in front of you. And secondly, because the game employs a technique called binaural sound, which is where they use a special microphone, where they put a tripod in the middle of the room, and on the left and right side of the tripod was a microphone. And the voice actors were, when they were speaking, were moving all around. And because of this, the way the microphone was designed to resemble human ears, if you put headphones on while playing the game, you could actually tell the relation, the spatial relation of the actors to the microphone. So if there's voices in your head, you can tell not only if they're left and right to you, which is just basic stereo sound, but also if they're in front or behind or up or down. And I don't know if after the screen recording and then rendering it out in Vegas, this effect is still there. In any case, I still recommend wearing headphones for watching this, just to get the voices closer to you. This is important for the artistic effect. I mean, the artists themselves, one of the first messages you see when you boot up the game is put headphones on for maximum effect. So this is also my advice to you. Now, if you remember the half-hour-long video where I made the case for the game, to a couple of gamer friends that I have, which did not work, by the way. But if you remember that, you will know the basic setting. I'm giving you just a quick refresher. It is set at the, somewhere at the late 8th or early 9th century in northern Scotland, on the Orkney Islands, where a Celtic tribe called the Picts lived. The Picts also lived on the main British Isles and northern Scotland. The Orkney Islands is where that tribe lived, that Senua is a part of, or so at least the game suggests. It's not 100% clear, but the game sort of hints at that. It plays at the time of the Viking invasions of that part of Scotland, where the Pictish tribes got slaughtered very mercilessly. There were just a few that survived the Viking onslaught, which later merged with the other tribes living in northern Scotland to basically become the Scots of later ages. And the Picts were called the Picts because they like to paint blue war paint on their faces and bodies, which is something the Scots later still did. So that was like a Pictish influence. If you remember Braveheart, they did it there, and those were all Scotsmen. That was their Pictish ancestry showing up there rudimentarily with the war paint. So that's the historical setting, and there's a scientific setting as well, which is that the main character of Senua has a mental illness called psychosis. You are probably going to be somewhat familiar with it because you are pretty literate when it comes to medical topics. But let me run down a few of the fascinating symptoms by you anyway. just so that they are fresh in mind. It's a host of audio, visual hallucinations, like hearing voices and seeing things that aren't there, sudden changes in light and color intensity, weird shifting of reality as your hallucinations take place. In some cases, long periods of time where you just shut off from reality completely to retreat to a, made up one that's just in your head, and having vivid memory flashbacks that you are physically reacting to while they are just happening in your head. Schizophrenia is a precursor. It's one of the many triggers of a psychosis. So if someone is schizophrenic, that can actually trigger a more severe mental illness, which is psychosis, where you will then have the symptoms of schizophrenia as well as those of a psychosis. So that is, an added level of fun to this condition. All of this is something that Senua is dealing with while being born in an age that wasn't exactly known for being scientifically enlightened, if you know what I mean. So, if she is strange and weird and sees things, and the closest thing around to a medical profession is a fucking shaman that believes in gods and mystical creatures, Senua's life is not going to be easy. So this is my setting the stage here, because I don't want to spoil anything further. The game will explain things as the game sees fit. It doesn't hold your hand while doing it. It assumes you are a smart person and can figure this shit out. Always something that I appreciate when a story does it. At the end of it, I'm not going to talk very much while the game plays. I am going to be at the helm, so I'm going to be with you in spirit. But I'm not going to talk much, because the atmosphere is so thick, and the story is woven into everything you see and hear, that if I'm just talking over it, you are going to miss things. And there's a lot of details to miss. They are really weaving a thick tapestry of story and atmosphere with this, that I would just disturb. You will notice that at some point in the game, I will just stop and let the story and atmosphere sink in, because you can actually miss things by moving too fast. And, everything you hear and see is there to drive home the story and the condition that Senua is in. Even all of the gameplay elements. Now, compared to other games, they are actually rather simplistic. I have been an aficionado of the industry for a very long time, so I've played a lot of titles, and this is not exactly a complex game on the gameplay front, but for a story-heavy game, it doesn't need to be. What it does with the gameplay is exactly what it sets out to do. Is it incorporates it into the story that it's trying to tell. Every gameplay decision plays into the condition that Senua has, and illustrates to the non-psychotic what it is like to live in a mind like that. So it is actually rather brilliantly designed by that. And again, it doesn't take you by the hand. Every modern video game has a tutorial just to hammer home how the game mechanics work. Usually it is appreciated. You get a few try runs, make sure you got the mechanics right, and then the game throws you into the mix. This game does not do that. It incorporates organically a tutorial into the game. The closest to the tutorial you can get is by just, looking at the button mapping in the option screen and see what the things are that you can do with what button. And then when you start up the game, where there will be no hints popping up, no push E to open, and no push left, right for a power combat combo or some such bullshit. You're just gonna have to figure this out. And then it is just the voices in Senua's head that are just going to provide hints as to what you're supposed to do. And you're just gonna have to connect the dots on your own. You know, the voices will continuously, annoyingly tell you to focus, and then you just have to remember, oh, right, there was a button mapped to something called focus. So what was that button? Press it, you'll see the game works. That's how they do their tutorial. It is fucking brilliant. Every game design decision is there to complement the story. The story is God, and everything else is there to serve it. To really prove that, we'll have a look at the game's difficulty settings. They were marketing this to a wide audience. So you got your straight up difficulties here. You have easy, normal, hard, right? You know, the difficulty never changes. However, it has an additional setting which is called auto, which means the difficulty auto adjusts. Now, to what is not 100% clear. This is kind of fun. The studio has not released a statement on what this adjusts to. Many have voiced the theory that the game adjusts to the player's performance. So if the player dies a lot, the game deals it down, and if the player is doing well, the game is dealing it up. Now, I have played this several times on easy, on hard, and on auto, and I cannot confirm this theory. The hard points stay hard until you adapt your strategy to beat the enemy. They hit just as hard, their hit points don't go down, it stays hard. And when there are easy enemies, they do not get any harder either. It is my belief, after having played this and taking notes on when the game changes difficulty in this auto mode, it is actually story related. It is actually related to Senua's state of mind. If she is confident in herself and her goal that she has set, and if she is, stable, the difficulty will drop and the enemies will drop just as quickly. But if she is psychologically compromised and she doubts herself and she is in pain, that is when the game ramps the difficulty up and it's getting really hard. Which I think is fucking brilliant. They even incorporated the game's difficulty into the artistic narrative. They are presenting you, if you choose to select this setting, which we are. I'm going to set this to auto, which means the road ahead is long and arduous and painful and hard, as it should be, as life is, as well, and we shall see if we can make it all the way to the end. Senua, take it away.
Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome. You're safe with me. I'll be right here, nice and close so I can speak without alerting the others. Let me tell you about Senua. Now, her story has already come to an end, but now it begins anew.
What's happening? It's breathing. The head. It's breathing. It's breathing. He knows she's getting closer. He can feel her coming closer. She's getting closer. They're watching. They're watching. They're watching.
This is a journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories. I never told you of the others. You hear them too, right? They've been around ever since the tragedy. Well, that's not quite true. Some are old, some are new, but they've changed. I think the darkness changed them, just like it changed her.
Can you see them? Over there. Why isn't she looking? Why aren't you looking? He's in hell high.
Look, up ahead.
In hell high.
You see it too?
You promised you came.
Yes. It is real after all. She's finally arrived in the land of mist and fog. The place the Northmen call hell.
Turn back. Go back. Go back. It's not safe. Turn back. Go back. Go back. It's not safe.
It's them. They're here.
Can you see them? I can see it.
Look around and you'll see them. The drowned, the sick, the slain. Here they lie, rotting in the fields and rivers of hell. But the dead don't always lie still here.
You see them?
This is not a place of rest.
You can't do this. Go back. Go back. They're going to do that to you. Can you see them? Can you see them? They're going to do that to you. They're watching. Stop. Can you feel them watching? They're watching her. They're watching her. You're so close to the darkness. Go back. Can you feel it?
What is she thinking? I can tell you. She's afraid. Wouldn't you be? You'd think she would get used to it by now after so many years. But the darkness, it just builds onto itself, growing stronger, towering over her. You might try and ignore it, turn away. But it's always there, just out of sight, where you're most vulnerable. It's like it knows that just enough light is all you need to see its suffocating power.
They can feel you.
You might think she's brave to go on this journey on her own, but it isn't bravery that drives her. Bravery only means something to those afraid of death. Then it was fear, runs far, far deeper. What is she looking at? What is she leaving behind? I know what she's thinking. I hear her thoughts. It's not too late to get into the boat and go back. No one will judge her. No one will ever know. Oh, she heard us. There's no going back. pushes away a world that conspired to cause so much suffering. There's nothing to go back to, and worse to look forward to. Why don't you join us? Maybe you too have a part to play in this story.
Look really clearly.
Focus, Senua.
Focus. Focus and you'll see. What happens if you focus?
Do not forget my stories, Senua. Because your darkness comes from hell, and your fate lies there. They say the burning of a corpse will take you straight to Hela's gate, but gods and the living will follow this path. You must leave the Isles of Orkney across the eastern sea and find a road that leads north and down through deep, dark valleys. After 9 nights of riding, you will follow a great river and will find a bridge covered in gold. The path to Helheim goes from there, across the River of Knives that flows from the dark world of Niflheim.
Hungers for it. Like a pack of wolves on a hunt. She's not stopping. Not this time.
Can you see it?
The land of mist and fog.
He's in there.
The old fool was right.
You see it?
What was it he said? The river of knives across which lies the halls of hell. The place they call Helheim.
He's lost. He's lost.
Where are you? I hear you.
He's there, you know it.
There's no doubt about
He's
it.
lost.
The source of the darkness is in Helheim,
They're called
and the goddess Hela holds his soul there. Her dear beloved, Dillian.
What is she doing?
Why is she doing this?
Why doesn't she turn back?
She's doing this for just to rescue him.
He's already dead.
He's dead.
His soul is in hell.
The bridge to Helheim.
Where are we?
I forget its name. She forgets too. But she does remember that only the dead may cross it. That part wasn't so easy to forget. The old fool said there was a hidden path up to it. Let's see, shall we?
The Northmen speak of 9 worlds. The world of men they call Midgard. Sky gods dwell in Asgard. The gods of earth, harvest, wind, and sea dwell in Vanaheim. The good elves dwell in Alfheim. The evil ones dwell in Svartalfheim. The mountain giants dwell in Jotunheim. The fire giants dwell in Muspelheim. Niflheim is the world of ice and darkness. Only the dead dwell in Helheim, and that is where you must travel.
That's the way. You don't know where you're going. Just drop down. Why isn't she going down? What's down there?
So brave. You're not safe.
Stop!
You've got to go.
Why did she do that? She shouldn't have done it. She can't go back now.
No, this is it. The hidden path.
He's going to hurt you.
It's dangerous.
Don't kill me! I'm not one of them.
Don't
Listen. I was just hiding. I find I live longer that way. Don't listen. I'll never let the bastards catch me again. Never! Wait. Who are you? It's just a memory.
Ruth? Is that you?
For my tales of the Northmen, they call me Druth. A liar.
He's lost.
An old fool. Truth is my truth.
It's good to see you again. You kept your vow.
Guide you in this life and the next. I will tell you my stories of hell, if I may walk with you.
Tell me your stories again, old friend. I'm listening.
The runes seal the gates to hell. Focus your inner eye, and you too will see what's hidden in plain sight.
Focus.
I can see one.
Hold it in your mind's eye. Find one like it to open the gate. It's near. Focus. You look towards the gate, and the gate will open.
The gate is open. Go through the gate.
Go through it.
It's dangerous.
Follow it.
What's behind the gate?
Let it work.
I spent 6 years enslaved in hell, but I watched the Northmen, learnt their ways.
I know you did.
You listened when everyone else laughed. My people paid a heavy price. Carry my stories with you, and together we will make the Northmen feel our fury.
Another voice joins us. She was trying to make them go away. Pretend they weren't real. But what good is that? When we are always here. It's the same with heights. You can stand on the edge, pretend it's going to be okay. But you know that death is near, waiting for you to make that little slip. You can't just wish things away.
The world of the dead is ruled by the giantess, Hela, daughter of Loki. The gods feared her bloodline, bad on her mother's side and yet much worse on her father's. So, as a child, the All-Father cast her down into Helheim and gave her power over those who die of sickness, age, hardship, and self-slaughter. In all of the 9 worlds, only Hela can resurrect the dead. To Hela, your Dillion was sacrificed, and with her you must bargain.
Stay back. Look at it. You have to open it.
The gate to Helheim divides the living from the dead. Is that the face of Hela herself? The half-rotten goddess that rules over Helheim. Whatever horrors lie behind that door, she must find him. Shh. Someone's here. You took him from me. I beg you, let him go. I'll give you what you want. I won't resist anymore. Just give him back.
You're going to die. Get dying. Darkness is coming.
A vision of what's to come. Poor Senua. The darkness does not bargain. It does not reason. It is rot. And now it has taken hold. It will spread towards her head, the seat of the soul, until there is nothing left of her. All of her suffering will have been for nothing. It's just a matter of time. The hardest battles are fought in the mind. That is what Dillian taught her. With every defeat, the dark rot will grow and soon it will take her soul. But for now, at least, she still has control of her mind. And she will fulfill her vow. Whatever the cost.
Okay, let me pause it here for a second to explain things to the non-gamer. What the game just told you here is that it features a function called permadeath, as in permanent death. It is a gaming feature that is revered by hardcore gamers and feared and hated by the more casual ones, because it means that if your character dies, they die for good. There is no bringing them back. There is a few really hard games that have that function where you can just lose characters for good, but this one is kind of special because you only have the one, and it only has one save game file. There's no save scamming, there's no manual saving, it has only autosave functions, and it always overrides the one existing save. So if you reach a point of permadeath, you can start the game over from the beginning. This is what they're telling you here just now. So every time you fail in combat and you die, or through other failures that can also, you can die from more than combat here. Every time you fail that way, that graphical effect on your arm is going to extend upwards. And if it reaches your character's head, then it's game over for good, and start again, and good luck next time. Now, how's that for a bit of tension? All right, I am at the wheel here, so Senua, I'll try to not let you down.
Listen to me, Senua. The goddess Hela lies behind the gate to Helheim. To open the gate, you must first face the gods that guard it. The god of fire, Surt, and the god of illusion, Valravan. Spill their blood to open the gate to Helheim and enter the land of the dead.
To Dillian.
To his soul. It won't open.
How will she get through?
Why won't it open?
Why can't she open it? She needs to challenge the gods.
She has to fight two gods first.
Two gods?
Two gates.
Which will she choose first?
One of them will kill her, I know it.
She's going to die.
Which one will she challenge first?
Be very careful, Senua.
Choose a gate, Senua.
2 gates, 2 gods. She's too scared. Which one?
The Northmen say that in the beginning there was nothing but darkness. Bitter cold to the north, fiery hot to the south. They say the cold formed ice, which melted from the sparks from the south. The power of the darkness gave life to the dripping ice, and the first giant was born, and was named Ymir. The ice continued to drip, and the power of the void gave life to it, and it became a cow, whose milk fed the giant. That's right, a cow. Bet you weren't expecting that.
Valravan, ancestor of the seers and master of ravens. He hunts his prey with his powers of illusion and feasts on their remains. Follow the path to Valravan and defeat him in battle to earn his mark. The gate to Helheim cannot be opened without it.
Ymir was a frost giant, a being of darkness, and all his sons and grandsons were dark after him. Of his daughters and granddaughters, some were monstrous, but others fair. But there was another who came from the ice, Buri. In shape, he was like a man, big and powerful. His son, Bor, took a fair giant to be his wife, and they had 3 sons. Odin was the eldest, and the Northmen hold him to be the foremost of the gods, the All-Father. Illusion hides the path to Valravan. Don't trust your eyes. Find another way to see the truth.
It's a door. Push it. Push it. Push it. Do you think will happen? Come on. Come on. Push it. She did it. She did it. Something was different. Change. Can you see it?
It's funny. We all want to see behind the veil, don't we? Once we do, we mostly just close our eyes again and pretend what we saw was never really there. Anyone never could close her eyes, however hard she tried. Begged. vast darkness, all that lurks within it, can see you too. The Northmen will not stop her. She will find what she's looking for.
Valravan's power of illusion comes from ravens. Aligned on the ravens to break his magic seal.
Show me what you have seen, Truth.
Look how much it's changed. It's so different. Something's shifted. Something's happened. Something's shifted. Can you feel it?
Do you feel it too? It's like crossing into another world that looks the same but feels different. An imposter world where the forest itself is watching.
Another gate.
Another gate. You know what to do. Stay back. Don't open it. It's not safe. Don't listen to them. Listen. Don't open it. You can do it. Don't touch
To break the seal, align the ravens with the mark of Valravan.
What does it mean?
Which ravens? Where are they? Can't you see them?
To find.
Line up the ravens.
Shh. What is it?
I hear something.
If you hear the song of Valravan, follow it, and it will lead you to him. But be aware of his illusions. You can't always trust your eyes.
He's gone. He disappeared. Where did he go? You lost him. Where is he? Find your fault.
Is she lost? Wouldn't be the first time. Last winter, before the tragedy, she journeyed into the wilds of her native land, living off berries, roots, and rabbits. It's not uncommon, you see. We call such a person a Gelt. Some, like Druth, become Gelt in search of penance. Others, like Senua, to purge a curse. Those who make it back are forever changed.
She can get up now. She can get up now. What's happening? She can get up now. She can get out. It must be magic. Dark magic. A trick. Raven. Tricking her. Raven. How can she get out? Bait. It's him. Dark magic draws her closer. It's not him. He's helping her. It's not him. It's a trick. She's doing it on her own. He's not tricking her. It's magic. It's an illusion.
The Northmen say that Odin is always in search of knowledge and wisdom and magic. There was a very wise being named Mimir, who guarded the waters of wisdom which flow from the roots of the World Tree. Odin wished to drink from this spring, but he had to pay a price. So he gouged out his own eye as offering to Mimir. He drank from the well and traded one way of seeing for another.
simple. The worst kind comes without warning. A deep and primal signal from within. A reminder that just because you cannot see the threat, it doesn't mean that it's not already here.
She can't get in. She can't go in there. Behind there? Valravn, he's there. She can't go in. Has to find another route.
Truth says there's always another route.
Find a way somewhere. Go round.
Find your own path.
A different way.
Don't let them surround you. Stop it. She will die. Stop. He's a better fighter. Finish this. End it now. He's gone.
The Northmen say that Odin and his brothers killed Ymir, and that the world of men was formed from his corpse. They made his bones into stone, and his flesh into earth, and his blood into the salt sea. They set his skull to be the bowl of the sky, with his brains for clouds. Odin and his brothers caught the sparks flying from Muspel and made them into stars. And to protect the new world from the giants, they used Ymir's great curving eyebrows as walls.
Do you know what it's like to leave everything behind? Your home, loved ones, to head deep into the wilds, perhaps never to return. Senua does. Because when darkness speaks, it changes everything. Turning home into a foreign land and loved ones into strangers. Exile makes sense when you realize that you were never really home in the first place.
The Northmen say that Odin has two ravens. Their names are Thought and Memory, and each day he sends them out to fly all across the world. Upon their return, they perch on his shoulders and tell him everything they have seen and heard. In this way, he learns of things far and wide, and for this reason, he is called the Raven God. Senua, like Odin, you must seek wisdom through thought and memory if you are to succeed in your quest.
song. Valravan's song. It's over here. It's over here.
Is that? It's over there. No, it's here. There's two. Which one?
Listen, focus, listen, focus.
It's magic. It's magic. It's an illusion. She's been in the forest like this before.
This reminds her of something. The forest.
Where?
Which forest?
The forest in the wilds.
The wilds.
She left alone.
She went to the wilds a long time ago.
Why did she go to the wilds?
She wanted to fight her own darkness. She thought she could beat her own brain.
Did she beat her darkness?
No. It nearly killed her, but she tried.
Druth helped her.
If it wasn't for Druth, she'd
She'd
be
be
dead.
dead.
She can't beat her own darkness. She wanted to marry Dean.
She came to beat her own darkness and marry Dean. But it didn't work.
She thought her curse would affect him.
She thought her curse would spread to him.
She thought she'd bring the darkness to him too.
She nearly died.
She thought the curse made her tainted.
Druth helped her.
The Northmen say you must sacrifice in order to receive. They tell how the runes were revealed to Odin only in sacrifice. He hung himself from the world tree, and he stabbed himself with a spear, and he dedicated the sacrifice to himself. For 9 nights he hung on the tree without food or drink, and at last he saw the runes below him. He gave a cry and gathered them in his mind and learnt them. Then he fell from the tree.
The ravens.
The ravens.
They've gone.
Things have gone.
No.
Half of them have gone.
They've gone. Some are still there.
But where?
Some are still there. Oh, Raven's helping.
He's not helping.
It's true.
Quiet.
Out in the wilds, in the cold winter woods,
Where have they gone?
she no longer felt fit for this world. She almost gave in to the darkness. She remembered Dillian's words. She remembered her promise. She resolved to fight on and kill that which had become a part of her.
The ravens. They were gone. No. There's still three. There's three. There's three. Where have they gone? They gone. She did it all disappear.
Looking back, I was so naive to think she could banish it on her own. The further she saw into the darkness, the more she struggled to see anything at all. And the gloom, the smallest hints of shape, sound, or thought, grow in strength until they consume her whole. Before she knew it, the darkness had her in its claws.
The gate is open. Open. She did it.
There is no such thing as victory when it comes to the darkness. It's like it doesn't want to kill her. Yet, I'll gnaw at her, biding its time. Only when she is at her weakest will it strike to kill. Will she find Dillian before her time comes?
Overcome Valravan's final illusion to face him in his keep. I know you can do it, Senua. You have the sight.
We both see the darkness. We can fight it together. Speak to me, Druth. Tell me a story.
Senua, listen. I will tell you the tale of a man called Findan. The Northmen captured Findan's sister, and his father sent him to pay for her release. But they took his gold, put him in chains, and held him for a day and a night without food or water. Then they released him. I don't know why. Upon his return, his father's enemies in Erin set fire to his home. His father burnt to death, and his brother was killed. But he escaped with sorrow in his heart. His father's enemies offered redress for his loss and invited him to a feast that was at a hall near the sea. But when he went there, they betrayed him to the Northmen, who enslaved him and took him to hell. 6 years later, his slave masters landed on the shores of Orkney, burning all before them. And into that fire, Findan made his escape. What was Findan burnt away that day. But from the flames, the new man stepped forward, and Druth was born. Druth, the man that I am now. And though Findan never set eyes on his dear sister again, I, Druth, have found you, Senua.
I wish he could have seen my home before these dark times.
The gate is open. Open.
This darkness. I know it from the wilds. It's coming back for me.
I'm still here. Are you too? Where are we? I remember. It didn't end well in the wilds. It never does. You think you can overcome the darkness, make sense of it, and once relief settles in, strikes out of nowhere, throwing you helplessly back into the maelstrom, drowning the mind in fear, deeper, deeper, dragging you down so far into the void that maybe this time there is no coming back. But there, in the darkness,
Senua,
she remembered what he told her.
hear me. Reach out to me. Senua, take my iron mirror. Look into it, for it is a window into the underworld. Within, you will see the face of the darkness that you fear. And if you focus, like I have taught you to, you will also see that as much as the darkness has you trapped within its veil, it too is trapped within yours. Focus. Focus! Focus!
I see you. I see you now. You led me to the wilds. You trapped me there.
But not this time!
The Mark of Valravan, one of the keys to the gate to Helheim. Hold it in your mind's eye.
With every battle, the darkness grows stronger. Every victory bringing her closer to defeat. Unfair, isn't it? In those dark winter nights in the wilds, there were times when she considered letting go. If it weren't for truth, a chance encounter in the wilds, she would not have heard his stories of the Northmen. And she would not have this chance to find Dillion's soul.